for me, it's Wagner tonight. If anybody, it's going to be anybody else. So I don't mind Michael Brown Jr., dare I say, Pop Jr. Um, we'll see. If there's any other surprises in there. You never know with the Clippers, do you?
No, absolutely not, and that's why when people have been saying whether the Clippers should be drafting for fit or for the most talent, really, I've sort of been like, I don't think the Clippers will be wedded to anything. I don't even think they'll be against the idea completely of trading the pick. I think, as you said, things have been kind of trending a certain way for a couple of weeks now, and it probably does feel like it's trending towards Keaton Vagler a little bit, as much as it is for anybody else, really. Um, it sort of feels like it's been trending away from the idea of the Clippers trading away the pick, which I'm personally pleased about, because as you say, James, this doesn't really come around very often for the Clippers. So it feels like the Clippers shouldn't be trading away the pick. It feels like it's something the Clippers should be excited about, and hopefully, looking to pick the best prospect, whoever they feel it is in that moment. As I say, I'm kind of leaning towards somebody like Keaton Vagler as well, just because he feels like the better fit. My only other guy really would be Braden Burries. Like if there's a bit more of a sort of fit thing with him, because he's a bit more of a two-way guard, could he negate for some of Darius Garland's weaknesses on the defensive end? Relieve some of that pressure on Darius Garland, then I think that would be majorly a value for the Clippers. But
Yeah,
we'll see what they do. It feels like as we close on it, it just gets like more and more exciting. We're just both a bit flustered because it's boiling hot here in the UK, and we've had some technical difficulties
yeah,
in the build up to this. But I'm happy to be live now and hopefully share this with a few members of Clips Nation.
absolutely. I mean, the second pick's in. I hope your stream is as up to date as mine. It's looking like, yeah, Darren Peterson for Utah. I think again that seemed expected as well. I mean, I'm very surprised that neither Washington or Utah fancy Cameron Boozer. I'm really a big fan of Cameron Boozer. Um, I think Memphis are going to take him at three, and he's going to be a great fit in Memphis. But yeah, Darren Peterson to the Jazz, I think, as expected, really. Which means Cameron Boozer, Caleb Wilson still on the board for Memphis and Chicago, which yeah, I think that just feels like the inevitable 3-4 between the two teams, and we're going to get into that conversation where now like the point guard starts to come on the board. Yeah, this is really exciting. I think we've both been waiting for this for so long, haven't we? And this this is yeah, good night for the LA Clippers. I'm really stuck, and I don't know if you are as well, Josh. I'm trying to like not look at my phone because Shams is notorious for spoiling these picks. But also, what I'm keen to see is if there are any trades, because we had a big trade yesterday as well, didn't we? Had the Giannis domino finally fell, finally made his way over to the Miami Heat. We know there's a lot of rumors around the Clippers. I think there's been some talk around Jalen Brown, Kawhi Leonard. Is Kawhi Leonard going to stick around? Even guys on role players, because Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn have seen some rumors that might suggest they might look to put them for some picks. So I'm stuck in two minds. Like I don't really want to get this draft spoiled for me, but I also like want to know if we could just make a trade. That is in the realm of possibility, isn't it?
Yeah, I've decided I'm going against any spoilers. It was literally when you said it, then I was like, oh, I've realised that the
Yeah,
one thing I've not done as I've sort of gone belts and braces here is go on Do Not Disturb. So, got the draft on my phone, got you on my screen here in front of me, James. That's all I need right now. It's just to,
all we need.
they'll announce if a
That's all
trade
we need.
is coming on here. We'll
No,
be all
no, for
good with
sure,
that. Yeah, so
for sure.
yeah, I'll stay away from the shams spoilers and things like that for now. This feels like the purest way to consume the draft. I'm gonna try and
It
sort
is.
of keep half an eye on the chat in case any questions or anything come through. But also, if anybody is hovering around, listening to this, watching this, try not to do spoilers in the chat if you can
Yeah,
prevent it, because God knows how far behind I am from James, or James is from me, or we are in general. We were hoping to have been able to test all of this, but as I say, maybe it's a Clippers curse that we couldn't quite get this in on time, but live now. So yeah, Darren Peterson to the Utah Jazz. I guess interesting in a sense, as you say, it sort of felt like it was trending towards it. It felt like Darren Peterson almost tried to like rage against the dying of the light, if you wanted to call it that, by saying like, oh, I'm not going to go and do a workout for the Jazz, but I am for the Wizards. He was almost trying to like will that number one pick into existence, maybe like a sort of, you know, last ditch attempt to make sure he was that. But then there was all sorts coming out in the last few days, as I imagine he was sort of hearing from people close to him and advisors and stuff like that, or maybe even the teams themselves. They're like, yeah, you're not going number one, buddy, so you better be prepared to wheel back on that workout idea a bit. And then he said he'd done an extensive interview with them, which wasn't necessarily a workout, but it was something where the Jazz could kind of figure him out a little bit more. So interesting really in terms of, you know, fits for both of those players. I think AJ's, as I say, he's got that all-round game. He can probably fit in anywhere really, and for Washington I just think you have to take someone who is, you know, tipped to be a generational star. I guess it's similar for Utah, but as I say, I definitely have some questions about Darren Peterson. They've got Cameron Boozer on the screen now. You sort of imagine he is going next, because there's a little bit of a bump down to Caleb Wilson in 4, isn't there? So unless something mad happens, then yeah, we're expecting Cameron Boozer to go next. And even that's an interesting fit, like him in Memphis with Zach Edey, two guys who are more ground bound. Are they going to sort of, you know, almost mirror Miami with Giannis and Bam now, and look to have more of an inside presence, maybe two sort of bigs in I guess in a more traditional sense as the way it used to be. Don't want the Clippers to be any part of that. I want the Clippers to still play fun, not gritty, not grindy, 3-point shooters. Hopefully Kawhi Leonard's still on the team going into next season, but as I say, and keep saying, I feel like anything is on the table at this stage.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk around trade, doesn't there? Like Jaylen Brown. I don't know how you feel about Jaylen Brown, but that was never a move I felt suited the Clippers, particularly the number 5. I want them to draft a player and keep him on the roster. I'm not really particularly interested in a Jaylen Brown. I think if they're going to make any moves, like just bring some more assets in. Also, you've got to remember the Clippers need to remain competitive for the next few years. So, you know, if we can bring a couple talented younger players in, fine, but let's not blow up the whole team all in one go. It's not really an incentive to do that. I think the franchise know that as well. But the Memphis Grizzlies about to select for me. Josh, I don't know if they're about to select for you.
Oh no, for me they've already gone. So sorry, I must be a little bit ahead of you on the phone stream here. So I won't do any spoilers, but I think you know who's gonna go there anyway. So
yeah, that was inevitable. It would have been a shock if Cam Boozer didn't go there. I'm really interested to see how he gets on.
You definitely up to live? Then are you watching on League Pass on your laptop? Yeah.
Yeah.
He must just be slightly ahead on the phones then, I guess. But yeah, I'm watching the man himself in his Memphis Grizzlies cap now. The Naismith Men's College Player of the Year. This is the funny thing about being more of an NBA fan than a college basketball fan, is that like I probably know, or keep saying like it's the Bill Simmons thing. I don't know if you listen to the Bill Simmons pod, James, but him and Zach Lowe and stuff keep saying at the moment like they've just got about enough knowledge to be dangerous, and that's kind of how I consider myself as well. Like I vaguely know these guys. I definitely know the ones who competed in March, and then otherwise it's more like narratives and things that I've heard over the course of the season. That's why I'm kind of surprised that like maybe there haven't been more questions about Peterson because of the sort of bad narratives that have come out about him this season. But the talent must be unquestionable if there are no question marks about him. For all those other reasons, like the lack of playing time this year, and I think he had like cramps that they were saying were linked to creatine he was taking and stuff. So definitely some like strange little factors about him, I guess. But the talent must be undeniable. I mean, it's been pretty clear, hasn't it, that this top 4 were like a pretty generational top 4. Like you're expecting Caleb Wilson to go next to the Bulls now in 3 minutes, and then we're in the hot seat for the Clippers, and that's where things do get interesting, because as I say, the top 3 was kind of strange in that you felt like you could put a paper's width between them, but maybe Cam Boozer did sort of distance out a bit. It doesn't feel like that really at 5. Like everyone is kind of assuming that Acuff is like the talent pick, but I don't think there is that much of a leap in talent again, with really very little knowledge on the whole thing. I think he's probably the more electrifying like offensive player, so the idea of giving him the keys to a franchise makes more sense. But I don't really think with the Clippers like we're looking to give away keys to a franchise yet, so maybe
No,
in terms of the fit for him, that doesn't make much sense, even if it does for us to kind of have a guy that, if you do go away from Darius Garland and Quellen in the next few years, you can give the franchise over to. If I'm Darius Acuff, I'm almost probably a bit like, I'd rather go to like Sacramento or something where I know I'm going to get the keys to the franchise. So, well, the Chicago pick is in, so we are basically about 6 minutes away from finding out.
yeah, I think it's interesting for Chicago as well because they were involved in that trade yesterday that landed them with Nick Claxton. And obviously, that's not someone I think is going to change their mind about Caleb Wilson, but this is a team that's getting some size in terms of the players that they've got, particularly in that front court area. Caleb Wilson feels like a natural fit for them, but I don't know. Obviously, Chicago Bulls. It's been a while since they've been like the best of the team, and do I trust them to make the right choice here? I mean, there is a clear choice for me from Chicago, but is there a world Caleb Wilson selects? That would, I think, yeah, that would be absolutely mental. I think we've all been big on Caleb Wilson. I don't think it's going to happen. Chicago can't let that happen. And yeah, I think it's naturally going to force the Clippers where we think it's going to be, where they're going to have that big choice among point guards. Where I think, yeah, I do. I agree with you. I don't think there's like, I personally don't think there's like a wrong pick. I think like it's very clear like there's a lot of talented point guards available for Clippers, and where they want to go with it. And I think they said that there is this consensus that maybe Acock Jr. is the talented guy, but that doesn't always pan out. So maybe a fit alongside Darius Garland makes sense, and um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens fairly shortly. It's coming. It's real close now, and waiting for this Bulls pick. I think that, yeah, like you said, you're slightly ahead of me in terms of our screens.
I might spool back a little bit so that we can get a pure reaction here, because yeah, I
Cool.
feel like this is as much for the content that comes after, really, isn't it,
Yeah,
as it
yeah,
is
yeah,
for what we're doing
absolutely.
right now. So,
I'm
what?
watching the Boozer family talk about the pick at the moment. I don't know if you are as well.
So are you watching the bit where Cam's talking? So I'm still on that bit, but the mums just spoke on mine. Um, so maybe I need to come back like 10, 20 seconds, maybe. I'll go back 10 for now.
I don't know if there's a timer on yours because mine has like a timer.
Can you click?
The one that's just literally started talking now.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, there's like a little timer in the bottom left in 29 minutes.
Oh no, I've not got that. I've just got. Oh wait, 29 minutes is on your timer. Have you got a live button on the right hand side?
Yeah, click that. It
You
just
click
brings
that,
me to the
yeah.
same spot.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like maybe a computer thing. You're on the mobile, maybe it's a bit quicker.
Count me out your
Um,
numbers live then. I'll try and get as close as possible to it.
29, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31.
Okay. So I'm at 34 now. Um,
Yeah.
maybe I can go back another 10. What?
Yeah, just flip to the Bulls HQ.
Yeah, so I'm now just slightly behind, but I'm alright with that. I'm alright because you're hosting, so
We'll
you
be
can
fine.
you can take the lead on it.
We'll be fine.
It's weird
We
seeing
got there in the
seeing the
end.
war
We got there in
rooms,
the
isn't
end.
it?
Yeah, here he comes. Wow, very interesting if they don't take care of us in here. Yeah, I mean, I was just hoping that maybe that wouldn't happen, but it was always going to happen, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I think like
incredibly talented player.
the only sort of hopium we had really was, like you say, is that the Chicago Bulls have made questionable decisions for a long while now, but it kind of feels like, I don't know if the ownership have sorted themselves out a little bit, like the front office have sort of feel like cooler heads prevail there in this I know it is a brand new era now, but even in terms of some of the moves they've made in recent times, it does just feel a bit like they're on the road at least to sorting themselves out. So I never really expected that. I think I mentioned in the last episode we did, like there is always a chance, because I think there's always a chance that Chicago do something stupid, but
Yeah,
this felt like almost a bridge too far. Like it does feel like the talent gap between 4 and 5 is pretty sizable, really. It seems like
yeah,
Caleb Wilson's someone who is, even though he's not necessarily in that top 3 bracket, like he was never going to go at 1 or 2. Um, he is talented enough to be, still probably a number one pick in like most NBA drafts. He's a better prospect than like a Zachary Reese-Shea or something. I know that's easy to say with a bit of hindsight on Zachary Reese-Shea and not to like dog on him, but from that draft class, like, Stephon Castle is maybe the only one who you'd say is like up there talent wise. But again, that is with the benefit of having a few years of Stephon Castle in the NBA. So yeah, not wholly surprised to see them take that pick in that way. But they also had a lot of point guards, so I think that was that was almost a joke about the Bulls at the back end of the season, was they just took on a load of guards. I don't imagine
Yeah,
many of them stay around to head into next season. I certainly had my eyes on
no,
Colin Sexton for a little bit until
they,
the Clippers got the five
yeah,
pick.
and also they don't have a cornerstone guy for their franchise, so it's just natural for them to take best player available. Um, and yeah, the LA Clippers are on Josh Sexton, Helen. Um, wow, this is big. This is scary.
So
Um,
are you about like
I,
250 on the Clippers draft timer now?
yeah,
246,
yeah,
245, 244, 243, 242. So we're about even then.
yeah. Well, we're going to get a cut to El Frank and Steve Ballmer in the Intuit Dome bunker. I don't know. That's good. Um, yeah. Wow. What a moment for the Clippers. What an opportunity. I'm not mad. Whatever route they take. If they go for someone that's a real far down in terms of consensus mock drafts, then that is pretty disappointing. But I think any of the guys that you mentioned so far, like, can't really go wrong. Clippers never expected to get this pick. I think just get the guy they want, they feel has been the natural. They've been the team that have been working out these players. They know them the best. They've got to know them better than any Twitter scout or media scout could ever know, right? Like, we only see the stats, we only see the film or, highlights, clips. I'm hoping the Clippers have also done their due diligence. And we all know the Clippers' record in terms of drafting historically. I'd like to think recently, at least if you look back last season, done tremendously well in terms of Kobe Sanders, Yannick Niederhauser. I'd like to think there's been a cornerstone in terms of the draft department, and I trust whoever they pick. I'm excited to follow whoever that might be. So yeah, getting close to the 1 minute mark.
Really are. There's the watch
Who's it
party
going to
at
be?
the which watch party into a
Yeah,
dome has come up on mine there,
there
which
we
is
go. There we are.
great to see. Yeah, Grant Mona, friend of the show, friend of mine and James's, great Clippers journalist, has been down there covering it. Grant's always on the ground with fans, stuff like this with the Clippers, which I really appreciate. Um, oh, here we go.
I can see the notifications popping on my phone, so
Can you?
it's
So
done.
it
Whatever
has
it is.
happened.
Wow, I think it's got to be Keaton Wagler. It has to be. I would be surprised if anyone else's name come up now, but let's see. Let's see. Pick is in.
The pick is it? Showing a lot of Wagler on the screen at the moment, which is I don't know if
Mm,
that's like not so subtle foreshadowing or
no, it's not. I mean, especially what he said yesterday about not working out for the Nets. Obviously, got the sixth pick. I mean, to me, that told me everything. And like I said, would be shocked if it's anyone else. And yeah,
yeah.
feels like Wagner's a Clipper.
Now finally showing Darius Saker on screen. He's got a big chain on, which I always appreciate a big chain. I love love seeing a big chain on the guy, especially on draft
Yeah,
night. I'm always like fair play. Rock up in the biggest chain you
yeah.
got. It's the biggest night of your life.
Wagner's got a face like he's about to. He knows he's about to get up there. Like, he's just waiting for it now.
Yeah,
Like,
almost
I think
like
that you can see
the
it.
cameras on me. I kind of feel it.
Yeah,
Just need Adam Silver now. Adam Silver coming out for me. Is he coming out for you yet? Yeah.
he is. He's out. He's got the pick. Who's it going to be? Keaton, Wagner
Keaton Wagler,
is an
LA
LA
Clipper.
Clipper. There we go. Oh wow. I mean, like I said, I think that felt like the nailed on pick for the Clippers. That it's official. Keaton Wagner is an LA Clipper. The Clippers gone with the best fit. I feel out of the available point guards. I think yeah, I'm happy with that. Um, yeah, I think it was so close between a few of the guys who are available around 5, 6, 7. Um, that Keaton Wagner 6'5", combo guard you could play immediately with Darius Garland felt like the right move. And I think you heard on ESPN just now, even like comps to Tyrese Halliburton is pretty exciting. Um, yeah, how do you feel, Josh?
Yeah, good. As I said, it felt like the right sort of pick to me in terms of, listen, if the talent of Darius Acuff was so much further ahead of a guy like Keaton Wagler or even a guy like Braden Burries, who I was quite high on coming into this because the idea is a bit more of like a two-way game there, maybe even a bit of a step up in athleticism than what Keaton Wagler can offer. But it seems like Keaton Wagler has got this really unique game, is what everyone has been saying. And listen, like, we were talking there about how he's had these interviews with the Clippers, and it seems like things gone well with the Clippers. It may be that the personality there has just wowed the Clippers as well. Ultimately, if the Clippers are giving over eventually the keys of the franchise to someone or looking for someone who can be, a piece to build around going forward, then they're going to want to pick a guy who they feel like they can rely on the personality as much as what you can do on the court. So I'm definitely excited to see what he can offer up on the court. As I say, didn't get a chance to watch really very much of him during the regular season, but a tiny bit during March Madness, and definitely an interesting game, an interesting profile for the Clippers. And it's sort of, it almost doesn't change very much for the Clippers now. Like, if the Clippers did draft Darius Acuff there, immediately you start to think about the future of Darius Garland, whereas even in drafting Keaton Wagler there, I should say, you don't necessarily flip to, oh, they must not be resigning Ben Mathurin or any of those kind of things. You're more just like, okay, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do then with Ben Mathurin. He's obviously he's a restricted free agent this summer, but we're expecting him to get some offers from teams around the league. So will the Clippers pay up for him now that they've got a guy that it's likely they'll play alongside Darius Garland in that backcourt? Obviously remains to be seen for the Clippers now, but yeah, I'm really happy with that pick. I don't know about you, James. I guess we were always going to be happy with whatever the Clippers came away
Yeah,
with because we have that trust, don't we, in the process of this. But um,
absolutely,
definitely exciting to hear it
absolutely.
talk now as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm probably in a similar position to you, where I've not really followed college basketball this year that heavily. So yeah, I'm very much relying on the work of others, mock drafts, any kind of deep dives, videos, opinions of people that you trust, and yeah, it did feel like there wasn't that clear guy in terms of who's like the fifth best. And maybe, yeah, I think I agree with the opinion that Philly Clippers go with talent with five, but this is a guy who can fit in seamlessly without them obviously needing to make any more moves. And obviously the Clippers have made a lot of moves to try and get the team in the position it is now, away from like the likes of James Harden, etc. So yeah, I think I've always been a fan of taller point guards. I think obviously Jalen Brunson's proven that maybe it's not always necessary, but it's always a gamble, right? Like any mock draft you see is never gonna tell the story of where players' careers going to end up. So I trust the Clippers with this pick. El Frank loves a tall guard. We know that. We know that just from previous drafts. And think back to a guy like Jason Preston. I think this is a guy who's immensely more talented than any of the prospects the Clippers have come across before. And yeah, really excited to finally have a proper rookie on the team. Not to say Kobe Sanders and Yannick weren't, but this is a lottery pick that the Clippers obviously
Exactly.
haven't had for many, many years.
Yeah, and we were referencing personality fits and stuff there. It's interesting listening to his post draft interview there. They were talking about him playing with a chip on his shoulder because he's been written off, and it does feel like the Clippers just have this sort of underdog spirit they like to tap into, and they like guys that do play with a chip on the shoulder. I imagine that Darius Garland now coming to the Clippers is another one of those guys who they're expecting to play with a chip on his shoulder, because as much as he wasn't necessarily written off by Cleveland fans, he's been written off by basically everybody else outside of Cleveland in terms of the the lack of defense maybe, or the lack of size, which makes him susceptible on the defensive end. The fact that obviously Cleveland have
Yeah,
now traded him away to get 10 years older and try and make this big swing for the championship with James Harden, which ultimately, hasn't worked in the moment, and is now almost a ticking time bomb for them. I think Darius Garland will be playing with a chip on his shoulder. Benedict Mathurin is another one if the Clippers do re-sign him. John Collins is another one if they do re-sign him. There's so many guys now on this Clippers roster that you feel like have that point to prove and have that almost like bit between their teeth because they've been written off elsewhere in the league. And listen, I think the Clippers went maybe a little bit too far with that spirit in the past few years, where they're almost trying to like rehab guys' reputations on the team, and we could quite clearly see that wasn't working for so many different reasons, really, let alone often basketball fit, an on-court personality being as much of an issue as like off-court personality was with a couple of those guys who tried to rehab. But I was in the Clippers UK group chat earlier sort of preaching that if there's DeMar DeRozan links that are floating around, for all the John Walls and Bradley Beals that the Clippers have signed from waivers when they've been waived by other teams, Mikael Brown Jr. going to the Brooklyn Nets, which is interesting. So Darius Acuff will slide to his seemingly desired destination of Sacramento, so he does get the keys to a franchise. Intrigued by the fit of Mikael Brown Jr. in Brooklyn, by the way. But yeah, for the Clippers, it feels like they get another guy who can tap into that underdog spirit. Feels like they can, immediately plug this guy almost into the starting lineup. Really, even if you do resign Ben Mathurin has been a six man for the Clippers. It seems like that's a role that not only he relishes, but the Clippers prefer him to be in, because it kind of takes off some of that weight of, maybe a lack of defense or a lack of concentration, more so on the defensive end in moments, streaky moments offensively in games as well. You can kind of almost plug and play that a little bit more. And I think that's almost the perfect spot for a number 5 pick rookie to be in, really, is to not only walk straight into a starting spot, but to walk into a starting spot where, like, yes, you'll have some responsibility, but if you can't close games for whatever reason that first season, they have a guy that can do that already in Ben Mathurin, as long as he resigns. So the fit is there straight away. As I say, the personality fit is there for me. I think the more I talk and the more I hear James, the more I can talk and sell myself on this.
got to at this point, right? And I think I was pretty sold on Wagner. Like I said, for me there wasn't like a clear standout guy, and for that reason, like I was pretty open to like any of the three, so Wagner, Baycott Jr., Brown Jr. as well. So look at the one with was that I trust him. I also I think I'm becoming a strong believer in like creating an environment for like talent to thrive as well. Like you've seen how many draft picks that the Nets have had in recent years, and they really haven't got like a standout guy through the draft process because they just have a very unstable environment. Obviously, the Clippers have gone through a lot of changes, but it does feel like they've kind of settled on like the kind of core, at least for next season. You know what the Clippers lineup's going to be. There are some incredibly talented players in that team, like you mentioned, Darius Garland, who's got a point to prove. He's struggled with smaller guys, so getting a guy like Wagner next to him who's 6'5", who can play off the ball as well is really important. I think gives Wagner the best opportunity to thrive in his rookie season, and just hoping that the Clippers award him with the minutes, and I'm sure they will. They've obviously not shocked number 5 for good reason, and hopefully they invest fully in him. We obviously saw what happened with SGA, because he had a very good season with the Clippers. Nothing outstanding. I don't think anyone was predicting SGA to end up where he got to, but obviously he got the opportunity to move to a team who will be rebuilding around him, and we saw how much he thrived in that environment. I don't see why, and I'm not saying Wagner's going to hit the heights of SGA, but trying to make sure like a player who's a number 5 pick can have the environment to succeed is only going to aid him in his development in his career. We know that transition is massive, and there are 4 guys in this draft who've all gone before him that we feel like probably can make that transition better than him, but doesn't mean that he can't take that jump. And yeah, I think Clippers he made a good pick here, and it's an environment where I said he can hopefully thrive from the offset. And never been more excited for a summer league Clippers team. very, very excited. It's a shame we're not going to see him with Yannick straight away, but um, really excited to see him in his uniform amongst some like the other like younger talent that we've got around the team at the moment.
Yeah, probably a good time to let you know James live on air because we've not really had much chance to chop up before this, but I'm heading out to Summer League as well, so um, I'm gonna be really excited to see Keaton Wagler up close. I don't know whether
Oh,
he will actually play because it tends to be, doesn't it? Like especially like top
mm-hmm.
lottery guys in the draft don't really tend to play, but hoping to see Kobe Sanders playing, of course, and sort of leading that team. I'm guessing Jordan Miller probably isn't eligible for Summer League these days because he feels like a Summer League goat,
He's
Jordan
paid his
Miller,
fair
doesn't he?
due,
So
hasn't
yeah,
he? Yeah,
maybe his Summer
yeah,
League years behind him, unfortunately. But excited to see who else comes through for the Clippers. I believe the Clippers do have picks in the second round here, so
yeah.
by the end of tomorrow we could have a few extra Clippers that I will be lucky enough, as I say, to be there and to watch live in the flesh. But even if Keaton Wagler's not on the court, I'll be making sure I'm keeping an eagle eye out for him, let him know that there's some support
Yeah,
for him here in the UK as well.
absolutely. I really hope he does. I mean, yeah, I agree. It's quite rare that some of the lottery guys get involved, but it would be great to see. Yeah, I think I need to start looking up in this draft now because I've not paid it. I don't think anybody has paid attention to the second round picks. So they've got like around 36 they've got or something around that, and then like a sort of late second. Interesting to see who they pick up. Obviously, not got loads of spots. He's still holding on to guys like Cam Christie for the team next season. So maybe it's just guys for the G League, but yeah, it's a very good draft, and they got Kobe Sanders in the second round last year. They can luck out with someone with that kind of tenacity and talent that maybe goes a bit unnoticed. Then uh, the more the merrier, right? Just trying to stack as much talent in this team as we can. But because it's got their lottery pick in, and keep in mind, very very excited to see him in LA next season. And it's not suddenly Josh definitely at Intuit Dome. Hoping to get out there next season. I'm sure you are as well. And seeing him suiting up for the Clippers, it might have to be a jersey purchase. I've not got any of the new jerseys, so I feel like as long as he makes the team next season, no
Good
more
chance, good
trades.
chance.
I feel like he's going that's gonna be a purchase for me. It's what we done because obviously, like I said, having that lottery pick for so long, just feels right. That might need to go out there and get that ball and brought back to the UK. Might need to hang out there instead of the old Richardson jersey that I've got back there.
Yeah, well, in theory, you are sort of buying into the future of the franchise there, aren't you? You'd like to think that Keaton Wagler is someone we can watch play for the Clippers for many, many years now. Whether that turns out to be the case, obviously, tonight is the night where we don't necessarily think about how it can go the other way. We just live in hope that it does and that he realises talent and that he stays healthy as much as anything because the Clippers have had, rotten luck with health and things down the years, especially when they've been in good positions. They lucked out in this position, having almost really bet on themselves in the Ivica Zubac stakes. But even then, like, it wouldn't have been the worst thing if the pick conveyed. I know some people were sort of, almost hoping the pick did convey because they feel like the Clippers were still in this almost trying to win now mode. But you get a
Yeah,
generational draft class here. In theory, you get a guy in Keaton Wagler who I think you can still plug into that win now mode. I don't think it swings the Clippers to being like contenders necessarily, in the sense of like, God, the Western Conference is going to run through the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs for many more years to come, I think, especially in the Spurs' case. So it's going to be hard for the Clippers to get back into that thing. But you'd like to think that when the day comes that the Clippers are, back at the precipice of the Western Conference and back in Western Conference finals and things like that Keaton Wagler will be a guy who, could even potentially be leading them there. So I like the idea of you buying into the jersey, James, because I'm as you know, the eternal optimist. So I think you
yeah,
buy that jersey. I think you buy all the stock on this guy. And interesting to see Darius Aikoff going to Sacramento. He does get the Kings, the keys to the Kings franchise. They were saying as well, I heard this the other day, that Scott Perry, I think he's the GM there in Sacramento now, he coached Darius Aikoff's dad. So it's always got a funny way of figuring itself out, the NBA draft, doesn't it? Where you're always a bit like, have all these teams spoke to each other and just kind of like had gentlemen's agreements that these picks will go where they go?
yeah,
Because Feels like there's
Feels like
always
everyone's got
little,
what they wanted,
yeah,
wasn't
it
it?
feels like there's
Really?
always little connections. I guess the only one where it wasn't the case is that Utah went for Darren Peterson instead of Cam Boozer, where Carlos
Yeah,
Boozer is on the staff there. But yeah, it does feel like more often than not it finds a way of shaking itself out. But I'm pleased with the way it shook itself out for the Clippers tonight. I'm pleased with the pick the Clippers have made. I definitely was worried about the idea of going straight in for another small guard and potentially hamstring yourself for a couple of years, Darius Garland, or becoming a bit too guard heavy because the Clippers are still in win now mode. I don't necessarily want to force the Clippers to have really tough questions to ask themselves immediately in terms of roster construction. I'd rather the Clippers were able to just kind of suck it and see almost with the roster for a little bit of time now. So this
yeah,
affords them the chance to do that. Be very interested to see what happens.
yeah. And I've said multiple times, I don't think there's anybody out there at the top four that's going to like clearly change the trajectory of the Clippers. And if it's Keaton Wagner, if it was someone else, it's just that was just a gamble, and this is as equally as a gamble as anybody else that they could have selected. But yeah, like I said, as soon as you're veering out of that top four, there just hasn't been anybody else that's like the clear guy at number five. So yeah, I get it. The strategy to go with the guy who fits the best for now, but also equally like as like more talented than anybody else as you go down the board is just made complete sense for the Clippers, and then just adds to that the point I was saying earlier around just giving that rookie like the best opportunity to thrive in their rookie season and really develop as much as possible because like you touched on in terms of like some of the weaknesses and maybe like concerns around him is like obviously that athleticism, the fact that he hasn't he didn't dunk or whatever, like just little things like that, like the burst, the explosion. He could dunk his first game as a Clipper and like then it's all rosy and everything, the haters all sharp, and then the Clippers made got a steal number five instead of maybe going for an Acock Junior. They obviously their weaknesses there in terms of defensive ability, etc. So yeah, Clippers couldn't really go too far wrong with this pick. So really, really excited. I know there had been some talk. I think Brian Windhorst had mentioned that Clippers started working out guys like maybe in like the middle of the draft in terms of some of the prospects. So I don't know why they would do that. Could there be a trade they're looking at? Kind of don't want to call it early yet, just in case anything does happen. And we know that because are clearly shopping some guys around. That does include Kawhi. I'm sure that would include Derek Jones Jr. for Stone. Because there's not many guys that are untouchable except for some of the younger crew. So what do you think about the Clippers potentially like trading or flipping one of their role players into another prospect? Considering, yeah, as some of the reports have suggested, they have been looking at some of the guys around like the middle to sort of late end of the draft.
I'd be a little bit surprised at this stage. As I say, I think the Clippers have given themselves almost like a perfectly smooth transition from being, a win now team into like whatever the next era of the team is with guys like Kobe Sanders. I always feel a bit like strange referencing Jordan Miller just because of the age, but like I can imagine
Yeah,
that Jordan Miller will be in the next part of this franchise, the next era of this franchise, I should say. Yannick Konan Niederhauser, I'm sure, will be there. You'd imagine that Keaton Wagler is there now, of course. So the Clippers have a couple of those pieces that they can build into the culture now, and then that culture doesn't have to change, and they don't have to go through some grand rebuild. I think the idea of like rebuilding in a really hard, explosive way probably will die a little bit of a death in the NBA now because of these relegation spots that they've got. So the idea of anyone like tanking and bottoming out will hopefully be gone. And also, I don't think the Clippers are
mm-hmm.
ever really in on any tanking stakes anyway, because it's just not very Steve Ballmer thing to do. I think he'd always rather, spend the luxury tax, go and watch a winning team week in, week out. And yes, sometimes when you're tanking, you can see, more exciting young players, but it also feels like Steve and Al Frank and, even Tyler and some of the other front office guys have been able to find a way really to, almost cheat in terms of roster construction. Obviously, looking out in the draft lottery has massively helped them in that sense, but almost cheat in terms of like we didn't have to bottom out to get a top 5 pick. We've got a top 5 pick now. He's hopefully someone we can plug into, as I say, a sort of win now culture and the current Clippers culture, with multiple guys who feel like they've got a chip on their shoulder, and hopefully he can continue to carry that going forward, and hopefully one day we're seeing Keaton Wagler with a championship ring on his finger, James, because I can't tell you, if Keaton Wagler feels like he wants that, then I would say get in line, buddy, because there's so many people in Clipper Nation who are dying to see Keaton Wagler now with a championship ring on his finger in whichever guise or year that it comes. I promise you, basketball gods, NBA gods, I will not be picky. As you tweeted the other week from the Clippers UK account, James, Lord, I've seen what you've done for others. Please, could you just do the same for me? The Lord, the basketball Lord, the God, has blessed us with this number 5 pick. I just want to see the blessings keep on coming from now.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Josh, because I was gonna absolutely repeat what I posted on X the other week about the New York Knicks and like how much of a shock that was, and obviously been their significant drought, obviously because he's never won the championship, and yeah, I we need it at this point. I feel like we're on the start of a journey now, a new journey with the LA Clippers, and this is obviously a franchise that is desperate for it, but is obviously not gonna take too many big swings. If we're going to have an opportunity to go get Giannis yesterday, if they wanted to, there's a clear direction. I feel like there's a clear plan in place to target some of the free agencies coming up. Obviously, Clippers are blessed to be in LA with their own arena that all the stars have seen now. Hosted All Star Weekend this year, bit of like a showcase for some of the stars that might be available, and we've got some young, hungry talent on the team now, which we've been begging for years, and we know how far that can go. So you look at the Knicks and just like some of the guys in that team that sort of drove into the championship. Even OKC, Spurs, who got close. Like these are all teams that are loaded with, I guess we consider younger talent instead of like what you maybe consider like the old guard of stars that the Clippers have like been targeting for years or linked with. Talking about Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Russ Paul. Like these are all names that are maybe not associated with winning NBA titles in the last few years, right? So I feel like there's a shift, and hoping the Clippers are waking up to that and being blessed with number 5 this season. Hopefully that's like the first step and first like building block towards maybe a new basketball strategy for the team. And yeah, it is exciting times. Just seen a post by Jake Fisher suggesting that he wasn't too shocked that there was any trades up to now. I think he spoke to teams and said that basically what we've said around like the guards available, talent was just too close for them to really care too much around like trading up for a particular guy. So yeah, maybe we're entering territory where trades may happen. I think I'd probably agree with you. It would be a bit of a shock if Clippers trading into the position, and I'd be interested to see if they were able to get anybody, but it would be a little bit of a shock. I think it's natural that the team does like due diligence on everyone in the draft as well. Like I feel like you should know, like if buffer presents itself, but maybe too good to turn down. Like maybe you want to know who you're drafting around like anybody in the draft. So, yeah, I don't know. Brian Windhorst obviously had something a bit more concrete, but I see a lot of talk around Jaylen Brown, even Giannis, and maybe Clippers going to be involved in that somehow and ending up with one of the picks in this range. But yeah, I would be surprised. But I do think there's some trades coming. There's also been so many names being thrown around of like guys who are available. One today that I saw was Trey Murphy. Actually, the Clippers are heavily involved in potential landing spot for him. What would you reckon about potentially landing Trey Murphy on the team?
I think the asking price from New Orleans will probably come in too high for the Clippers. I don't know if the Clippers have the sort of picks that you'd need really to be in any Trey Murphy stakes. I imagine that someone is probably going to potentially overpay a little, at least on the surface of
Mm.
it, for Trey Murphy this summer. So I don't imagine the Clippers can really be in those conversations. I think like if you were going to be in there, it would have taken either like Kawhi and maybe you get a bit more back from them, or it would have been the pick. And obviously the Clippers have drafted with the pick now, so you don't anticipate there's any real surprises coming in terms of that. Like it feels like Keaton Wagler is their guy, so yeah, I'm not expecting the Clippers to be in for Trey Murphy really. As I say, I think the asking price is too high. If it was one of them where like you could, in theory, like sign and trade John Collins or Ben Mathurin, and not give up too many picks because you just don't have many picks to give up, then potentially. But I don't even know if it really fits in the Clippers timeline. I think this is the hard thing about the Clippers timeline at the moment is it's a bit muddled, and Trey Murphy would kind of like sit slap bang in the middle of two timelines, I guess. Really, maybe he does lean a bit into like the Benedict Mathurin kind of timeline if you're keeping Benedict Mathurin around, but I think there's probably bigger questions for the Clippers to answer, and they don't necessarily have to answer them by like being splashy with a guy like that now. Whereas I think other teams
Yeah,
will be looking to make that kind of splash. Like if I'm Detroit, for example, I'm all over the Trey Murphy thing because I think that's a
yeah,
much better fit for those guys.
absolutely, absolutely. But I'm happy to hang around maybe to the end of the lottery, and then we can call it a night. This is pretty late for us, 2 a.m. UK time. Yeah, really enjoyed this. I'm glad that we actually managed to get through the technical difficulties to get this, because at one point I was like, oh my god, I might actually miss the pick like completely. But we got it. We managed to witness Keaton Wagner being drafted as a Clipper. Hopefully look back at this moment many seasons in the future, and yeah, very excited to see his trajectory as a Clipper. I'm happy to give it a few more picks, see if there's any movement, any shocks and surprises. But yeah, like I said, I agree with you that don't expect the Phillies to be trading up. But obviously, if they do after we jump off, then maybe we'll do a little emergency video, emergency podcast, something. We'll be probably tuning in to the second round tomorrow. I think I'm probably going to spend most of the day tomorrow reading up on who the Clippers might end up picking, because yeah, I'm very excited to see who else and what other talent they managed to bring in to LA.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sort of not anticipating there been any surprises, but there have definitely been strange things that have happened, haven't there? So, yeah, like
Yeah,
you, happy to sort of hang around and see. Like when we first discussed doing this, well, before we actually even teased the idea of doing a live, we were a bit like, when the draft lottery happens, we'll do a podcast either side of it, sort of looking at prospects and where the Clippers can land and stuff like that. So we can kind of go with the same vibe for this one, as long as you're around next week, James, where we're doing the on-air admin
absolutely.
part again here. But maybe we sort of, let the second round shake out and see what guys the Clippers come away from that, see what happens in that week between that, whether there's any other roster movements, any of,
Yeah,
developments on Benedict Mathurin or John Collins especially, and then we can have a bit more of a deeper chat about, not only Wagler, but whoever else comes out of this for the Clippers, if there are any more of those roster movements, kind of react to them, and any more big trades across the NBA. Really be interesting to see
yeah,
if anything else happens now. I feel like a lot of people have wanted to get into this draft, but as you say, no trades have happened so far. So, maybe there isn't just going to be very much movement in terms of trades tonight, because everyone who has their picks wants to stand pat. It was, sort of seeing that since Milwaukee got the 13th pick, they may want to use 10 and 13 to trade up, but I don't think there were very many takers above that 10th pick for
no,
getting two to go lower. There was a part of me that wondered if the Clippers should look at to do something like that, because like Braden Burry's still on the board here, Ademar is still on the board here. Could you maybe make a case to go for two guys like that? But it's been pretty clear that the Clippers have decided that Keaton Wagler is their guy, that none of these trade downs, trade outs, whatever's have been worth it to them, and I completely agree with them, to be honest.
yeah,
I don't think it'd have been worthwhile to have traded out of this, because you effectively then just like staking your future on Kawhi Leonard when the aspiration stuff is still like so up in the air as well. That's sort of the
yeah,
unknown here really that hangs over everything, isn't it? So um,
yeah.
yeah,
That's a topic we've not even touched on, right?
I
Like,
know,
I
of
think a lot of
course.
people expected that to be resolved before tonight, and
Well,
it still hasn't.
there's
So
every chance that's resolved before next week when we go through that podcast as well, or if not, maybe it's the
yeah,
sort of thing that will break as we're doing the podcast, because we have had that happen to us, and we all like, did we do the pod last time? Then Avicii Zubac got traded like an hour after we put it out, so yeah, we are
yeah,
susceptible
yeah,
as
yeah,
well
yeah.
to a bit of a Clippers curse on the view from the Clipper.
It just our luck will end the stream and the aspiration leaves will drop mid draft. Can you imagine? That
Yeah,
would be like
The
an
Clippers have had
atomic
their
bomb.
fifth pick revoked. Keaton Wagler is a free agent. Some
Yeah,
bullshit.
can you imagine? Yeah, that would be very, very tricky to happen. But yeah, I think it's got. I mean, it's got to come through soon. And then yeah, we'll be sure to also jump on and react to whatever comes out of that. I'm hoping for the best. It's also yeah, I think in terms of like the trade talk that you've mentioned, I think the Giannis obviously situation has had like a very firm grasp on the trade market, and I think um we saw yesterday like that sort of allowed for like a few more dominoes to fall, and I think that is also similar like the contract situation. We've seen a few guys that announced contracts that's also going to help like shape the market as well. And we've spoken about Benedict Mathurin as a guy like because obviously looking to maybe bring back and what that deal's going to look like. So yeah, there's been many more dominoes to fall after draft night, and I think a lot of teams have been waiting for Giannis to move, and then now they can sort of properly plan and go ahead. But yeah, with some sort of breaking news in from Jake Fisher. Nothing, no trades, but the Warriors, according to Jake Fisher, fielding offers for number 11 pick. So see if they select someone on someone's behalf. Yeah, no movement as of yet, but do you think we are getting to that territory now where a few of these teams maybe not particularly interested in sort of taking a guy to keep in Golden State, who obviously looking to continue to build around their Curry and there was some news about them being interested in Kawhi Leonard. Now I don't know if I'd take number 11 for Kawhi, but yeah, let's see what happens from here. Braden Burry's just gone to Milwaukee the day after Giannis has gone off the board. I think you've been pretty high on Braden Burry's, haven't you? And you know that's maybe a guy that they can start to build around. If you've got a new look team, bringing in Tyler Hero, Agnes Jr., a few other guys. So yeah, what do you like about Braden Burry's, Josh?
The defense as much as anything, like the offensive game is there. He can shoot the hell out the ball, but he's defensively astute as well, and I think that's like not a thing that you can sniff at too much with guys coming out of college. Like they're used to being offensive motors for their teams. They're used to having like keys to teams, but there's not enough of them, unfortunately, that are used to being having to do it on both ends. And I think especially when you get to the pros, like being defensively like clever is something that can really help you, because the adaptation to the physicality of the league is something that is going to happen. I think it's what people have been a little bit worried about with Keaton Wagler, is that he is a sort of slighter frame, so how will he adapt to the physicality? I do think he's got the kind of game that, it's almost like more herky-jerky style, so you can imagine him like dancing through big bodies and, causing a few big bodies to, hopefully breaking some ankles and things like that with a few Euro step moves throughout his time with the Clippers. But yeah, Braden Burries was somebody who I liked. Ultimately, the fact that he's gone at 10 probably shows that there probably was a bit of a talent leap between him and a guy
Yeah,
like Keaton Wagler. The Golden State thing's really interesting, only in the sense of like, I've had a little conspiracy for a while now. I don't know if I've shared this on this pod before. I'm pretty sure I have on Crossover the Pond, that Golden State would go in for LeBron to try and sort of team him up as almost like a dream pairing with Steph, where like LeBron goes there just for a year, announces that he's retiring, so it's like effectively a retirement tour. You've got 2 more years of Steve Kerr, probably 2 more years of Steph. I think Steph's contract's up, not this off season, but the off season after, or I should say the other one after that. So like in line with Steve Kerr's new contract. So you could almost have a scenario there where like you get a year of LeBron, you get another year on top of that where Steph and Steve Kerr both go, yeah, we're going to retire once that season's up as well. And the Golden State Warriors just kind of have this like, if not one last swing for a championship, then at least like one really fun, LeBron and Steph being on a team together, kind of capture the imagination, put bums in seats by doing that. Because
yeah,
I do think, unfortunately, like when you're in the West especially, like we are almost broken down into like there's like contenders and winning teams that are fun now, and the winning teams that are fun, there are so many of them that could be counted into that or factored into that. I hope the Clippers will be in that next season. I don't think they'll be in the contenders bracket. I honestly don't know
Yeah,
who else outside of the obvious of the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs will be in that contenders bracket with like a legitimate shot. Because I think, you know, if the Lakers lose LeBron, they'll probably take a bit of time to like retool around things. I think Denver have got some really interesting like roster questions to answer this off season. So um, yeah, I just think there are maybe too many moving parts. Houston, think even with Fred VanVleet coming back, and even if they get Steven Adams back, like that's not a team that I think fits well enough to be in serious championship contention. It seems like they're actually like shopping bits of that roster now as well. So maybe that's one of those things that will shake out as the weeks go on. But yeah, be really interested to see like where the Clippers sort of fall into things now. I would like to think they could be a better team than a Golden State Warriors team with Steph and LeBron on, but who knows?
yeah,
Maybe that's a little lightning in the bottle that the Golden State Warriors can capture there to put together a dream run with those two guys.
yeah. Well, I mean, with many options for the Warriors, I think does feel like they've got like obviously they're wedded to the Steph, like you said. Um, they're gonna have to make some moves to maximise his window. There's no, I don't see a world in which they part with him. So yeah, really interesting. Like LeBron is like the next move for them, but they are on the clock now. So see, still no movement on this pick. They've been looking to shop it, but maybe they're looking to get Jimmy off the roster. I've seen some rumors around them trying to rip into the Clippers. Not someone I'm particularly interested in. The Clippers just doesn't fit what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build over the next few years. And yeah, I completely agree with your the point there around just like I think just having a bit of patience with this Clipper team. Obviously, we've been sort of used to being like the maybe like perennial like championship conversation, never like the real favourites, but always like in the conversation. Maybe this is like these this last season, maybe this season as well, for the first time we've been like properly outside it, and maybe that's just something we've got to live with for a little while until we approach next year's free agency. Um, some free agency after that as well, and just let the front office rebuild this team. We know this is a destination for players. So yeah, the Warriors looks like they're gonna go ahead and take a player with this pick. So no trade inbound. Um, Happy to stay to 12 and see who OKC get, which I'm pretty sure is the Clippers pick in this draft, and call it a night, Josh, because yeah, I don't know about you, but it was tough to sleep last night. I don't know if you had thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff, but it was yeah, nothing like that tonight. But it was a very warm night, and probably need some rest and see what happens in the morning for the rest of the draft.
Yeah, I'm up early to be reacting to this draft as well, so burning the candle at both ends for me. Interested in the Axel Lendenborg pick, just sort of sidebar
Yeah,
before we do go for Golden State, because he was sort of seen now maybe alongside a Daymara as like the if you draft one of those guys, you're trying to win now move. So it
yeah,
makes a lot of sense for the Golden State Warriors, I think, to draft him. He's someone who I think has a real all round game. He'll be 24 when the season starts, which is, you know, kind of wild for like a draft prospect. But I think the Golden State Warriors will look at that and think like someone coming out of the draft with a mature head is maybe not the worst thing in the world for them, because they've had a lot of players that I think have sort of lacked that maturity down the years. Really looking at guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, even I'd throw into that like a lack of basketball maturity, I should say. Not to sort of do down any of those guys personally. And you know, maybe they're getting that in Yaxel Lenderborg there. You'd sort of like to think so for the age profile that you're tapping into. So yeah, interesting pick for them before we do round this off. But it's been fun. James is you know gone kind of how we expected, I guess. But still nice to just like feel that excitement and to have that moment of like, you know, we can say we were here and we were live to Clipper Nation when Keaton Wagler became a Clipper, and that is cool, because as I say, you know, it may be that me and you are at Intuit Dome in 10 years time watching the Clippers together, and Keaton Wagler is still a Clipper at that point. So that's what we all hope
let's
for.
hope
We
it.
we, we hope for longevity. We hope for him to be a superstar for the Clippers, and let's keep this thing moving as always.
I think that's one of the best things about fandom, really, isn't it? Like having a guy you can root for from the very beginning, and like we've mentioned enough already, like the Finnish just haven't had that for many years. Like I think the last guy I can think of who like felt like a clipper through and through was probably Terrence Mann, and look how he like sort of captured the hearts of Clipper fans and other moments he's had, and he wasn't even like a lottery pick, right? So as you move back many more years, as you get down to guys like Blake Griffin, and it's a shame obviously we didn't get to see it all out with SGA, but hopefully this is a guy that can stick around for a long while and really like yeah put his mark and put the culture, because it's obviously Clippers have made many moves, not just from like a roster perspective, but also moving into it dome. It was like a real opportunity for someone to come in and like really like make themselves a Clipper for a long time. And I do think like NBA nowadays like favors those kind of players, like players drafted by teams. So I'm really hoping that they stick by Wagner, no matter what happens next season, good or bad. Don't look to sell him high, don't look to sell him low. Just like take their time with him, watch him, let him develop. The Clippers could, if it wasn't for literally a lottery, the Clippers would have had a pick in 2030 instead of Keaton Wagner. So for me, like I just feel like no reason to be rushing off of him. Just play him, see how he develops, um, and yeah, I'm hoping for the best. And yeah, in 10 years' time, just on that, it'd be amazing to look back at this stream and be like, we were there when he was drafted. Because if I'm honest, I wasn't around when Blake Griffin was drafted. I can't particularly remember Terrence Mann being drafted too well. It's only certain guys I can remember, and they're no longer with the Clippers for one reason or another. So yeah, it feels like a big moment. Don't expect the Clippers to get another lottery pick for a long time, given still coming to the end of that the draft picks that they're obviously giving up to other teams. So we know the attitude of Steve Ballmer, doesn't want to be in a tanking position. So yeah, this is feels like not like a once in a founding opportunity, but maybe like once in like a 10-year thing for the Clippers to actually get a lottery pick. So yeah, really enjoyed jumping on this with you, Josh, and like I say glad that we got through except the difficulties and managed to see the Clippers take Ian Wagner, and well, amazing opportunity for you to be out in summer league, and if you don't manage to see him play, he's obviously absolutely going to be there. Hope we see some of the younger guys as well, but for sure, like you mentioned, we'll make sure we do a bit more of like a roundup episode. Probably like I said, next week would probably be good. Not only to talk about Wagner and maybe a bit more of a fallout from that, but also like some of the second round dudes and anything else that's happened around the edges. Because yeah, I'm not too sure this Clipper team today is what's going to be going into next season. I think there's going to be some more moves around the fringes. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys are moved around. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, we're sort of coming to the end of this now. Wait for OKC to make their pick, and give the old Twitter a refresh just in case any trades been made, but nothing so far.
Yeah, you sort of feel like OKC are the next ones who potentially could make a trade. I guess Miami would also be a little bit susceptible to that, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know at this stage. Really. I guess that's the Bucks pick now, isn't it? Of course, at 13, it's showing up as Miami's logo on my thing, but that would
Yeah,
be the Bucks pick now. So you'd expect that the Bucks make that because they're now leaning towards the future. So this sort of feels like the last one of the lottery now, where you probably don't. You may not get a pick here, you may get a trade, but even then, I'd kind of expect that OKC takes a Daymara here, just kind of fits. He almost like slots into the void that you imagine that Isaiah Hartenstein will leave behind.
mm-hmm.
I'd love to live in a world where the Clippers could be an Isaiah Hartenstein stakes, but again, similar
Yeah,
to the Trey Murphy thing, I just think those conversations will end up happening in a more expensive market than the Clippers will be operating in. The Clippers do have that taxpayer mid
100%.
level, which I think is at about 15 million, but I think Isaiah Hartenstein's on like over 20 odd now, so he'd basically have to want to come back to the Clippers, and even that feels a little bit far fetched. So Yeah, be interested to see what OKC do here, but that's what I'd sort of expect from them. Um,
Yeah,
and then yeah, see sort of what comes next in terms of roster construction for the Clippers. It's very interesting times, isn't it? Like there is genuinely so much that feels like it's on the table here for the Clippers. So much that could move. So many different moving parts. It's definitely strange because in football, like which me and James said over and over again on this, that's our sort of first sport. Yes, there are obviously big transfers and big moves, but you mostly keep like cores around longer than tends to be the case in basketball. Basketball, it feels like cores are much more of like a fleeting concept, really. So the idea like we've watched the core be dismantled from the Clippers now from the sort of 2-1-3 era. Um, Even into like the James Harden era, sort of almost at the end of 2-1-3 where it flipped over to being James Harden and Kawhi. We have seen that roster kind of be like picked away and picked away. Um, Jake Fisher there, by the way, live saying a Mara to the Thunder, so makes complete sense from their point of view. But yeah, interested to see who's part of the next core of the Clippers. As I say, we both hope it's Keaton Wagler. I would love for Kobe Sanders to be a part of that. I'd love for Yannick Konan
yeah,
Niederhauser to be a part of that. And then beyond that is anybody's guess, isn't it, James?
absolutely, absolutely. It's a very exciting time to be an LA Clipper, and obviously after last season, how like roller coaster it was to go into next season, and hopefully after the team sort of finalise their plans for next season, like have a bit more of like a clear identity. And isn't it just mad to think like the team went into the last season with as the team going into the season with like going into it with a top five rookie compared to the old heads and the unks that we were talking about last year. Like it's just completely like flipped on its head, and for me, it's like what I've wanted for a long time, but sort of tailing the 2-1-3. So very excited time to be a Clipper fan.
Yeah, always it feels like there's a new chapter and a new thing for us to discuss, more discourse that comes out of the LA Clippers. Excited to see yeah what this next chapter holds for us.
Absolutely. And there it is, Neymar to OKC. I think, yeah, now's probably the best time for us to wrap up. Obviously, there's every chance that any trade could be made after this, and we'll be sure to react on it on the next few of the podcast. It's been a fair while since we rounded up, so we obviously will have many more topics to speak about. But yeah, Josh, again, really, really pleased to have done this with you tonight, and thankful that we got this going. Keaton Wagner is an LA Clipper, and yeah, really excited to dive more into what that means for the Clippers next week and throughout the off season, and have a real opportunity to see how we can lay his mark on the franchise. And yeah, any final thoughts before we close this one off, Josh?
No, shout out to Keaton Wagner. You are a Clipper. Looking forward to seeing you hopefully play at Summer League, but at least pull on that Clippers jersey at some point. That's gonna be a good moment.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, as I said, real pleasure to do this tonight, and yeah, go get some sleep, Josh, because I know you got early rise to do some more reactions tomorrow. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with more Clipper reactions, anything else that comes our way. Go Clips, go.